Hi, welcome to New Jersey Wedding Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We are your hosts, Andrea Pertel and Celia Milton. And how you doing today, Celia?
It's a lovely Tuesday in New Jersey, and I have a wedding tonight, which is kind of Tuesday is I guess the new Thursday, right?
Right, right. And you're at a venue. That's wonderful.
I
Sometimes,
am. I've got like 100 people at a venue with four children and a dog. It's gonna be
uh,
great.
oh, that's great because usually a weekday like that is might be just like 20 people at the park.
Yeah,
So that's fabulous. I love a
yeah,
weekday
it's gonna be
wedding,
fun. Yeah,
So, but I just came off a very busy
you
weekend,
had a
very busy
million weddings last
week.
weekend.
Yeah. Um, and I did have, throughout the week and stuff, a lot of elopements. Elopements are very popular this time of year by the beach. And there was something I wanted some advice to give out about folks having ceremonies, especially elopement or micro weddings at the
Mhm.
beach or in the park. And just because it puts me in a bad situation when you don't follow the rules. I don't make the
Yeah,
rules for New Jersey. I agree with a lot of the rules. I don't want
yeah.
balloon releases. Our towns will not allow a balloon release over here by the beach. They won't do it because it's harmful to animals
Yeah.
and the environment. I think we have a lot of commercial fishermen and stuff. They don't need they find that stuff in the water and it's a no-brainer why it's not allowed,
It
not
really
just
kind of
because
is.
we don't like balloons. The other thing that was implemented about 4 years ago, and they will give you a ticket. They have the guys. I mean, these guys look like they're it must be the older I get, the younger they look. The beach police guys on their bikes, they look like they're 10 years old and they come on their bikes and they walk around the beach or the boardwalk is, and they will give you a ticket for it. And it's
Hmm.
another thing that I agree with, is no smoking cigarettes on the beach.
Oh, that's like ludicrous. I,
Right. And it's because smokers, and I don't care if you want to be a smoker or not. I'm not getting into that with anybody. It's the litter of the butt. And it's something weird like why you think it's okay to put that in the sand and cover it up. I mean, you're not if you finished a soda and you had a empty soda can, you're not burying that in the
just bury
sand.
the can.
Like what's the thought process behind cigarette butts aren't litter? And again, it's it's litter on the beach. Nobody wants to sit there and have their kids playing on the
Yeah.
beach and they dig up cigarette butts, but it also is harmful to the wildlife, the birds, the turtles, and we protect the turtles here, and the turtle nesting spots and stuff. And then when they make their way to the water, the fish, it's litter. It's litter
Yeah.
and it's bad for wildlife and the environment and people that pay their taxes to live here or buy their beach badges. And state laws and you know this
It's
has
just
nothing to
rude.
do with me is there's no alcohol on the beach. I mean, it's New Jersey. There's no
Yeah.
alcohol on the beaches.
Well,
And
and a lot of those same rules are in place with the parks that,
parks, yeah.
we work in a lot of parks. Some of them are state parks, some of them are county parks. New Jersey has some of the most gorgeous, beautifully maintained county parks that
Yes.
anybody could ever want. But,
Yes.
you usually need after over 12 people, you need to have a permit. It's not a lot of money, but you should support the park that you're going to. But, you cannot drag antique bureaus into a park for your wedding. You just cannot do that, and you shouldn't because it's weird.
And
And
don't bring a cooler of beer and
no, do not bring a beer, do not bring a bottle of champagne for your toast. It's like, do not do that. It's
right.
a privilege to be in these places. And I think we just touched on this privately. Do not invite 80 people because
No,
you
it's
have now a different thing going on.
Yeah, it's different. For that, you need to go to, here it would be like the Lavalette gazebo or the
Hmm?
gazebo in Belmar and get the permit. And that's what those are built for. I know some of the most beautiful free beaches. And like you, um, the parks by us are beautiful. But the other thing that you can't do is you can't use, if you're going to decorate with rose petals, you cannot use those fake ones. You should never use those fake ones
Yeah.
unless you're in your house. And again, the reason
And then
is
you can vacuum them up.
yeah, they're just litter. If you
Yeah.
dump a whole bunch of those out on the beach, you've just littered the beach, and then the birds and they're all going to choke on them. And it's like, no, real rose petals dissipate and they're
Disintegrate.
fine
Yeah.
to use. They're not going to kill
Yeah.
anything.
Just
And
because it's pink doesn't make it not trash.
yeah,
You know?
and all of these laws are laid out, and I work closely with these towns as you do too. I know
Mm,
the folks in these towns. I ask them permission. They know. I work closely with them for these ceremonies. And if the couple or their friends bring, alcohol, or they're putting litter down, or they're smoking on the beach, it puts me in a difficult situation.
yeah, it
I don't
does.
want to be put in the position to enforce laws. I'm there in the capacity of a officiant, a wedding minister. I'm not there to be, enforcing the laws. However, this is my livelihood, and
Yeah.
I don't want to risk not being allowed to use these beaches any longer, or the parks. And all it takes is a couple of the residents to say,
We don't
I
want to
said,
do this anymore.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't, they go to one town council meeting. They said there was a wedding there, and I know it was only 10 people, but they left a mess. And it's just, you know,
Yeah. You can't
and
really
then,
do
and then they
that.
go, no more,
Yeah.
so
It's just a matter of like, just don't be like a jerk. That kind of covers like everything.
yeah.
Don't leave your trash. Don't be late. Don't invite 65 people and they're all standing and now they're grumpy because it's like hot and they're in sand. Just, make like
Right. And there was
think a
no
little
not
bit
enough
more.
parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
There's no
yeah.
parking. It's not that much different with, a lot of the parks that we work with. I mean, especially on a beautiful, summer, early fall weekend, there's going to be a lot of people where you want to be.
Right,
That's
right.
just inevitable. It's going to be hard to park. There's going to be like do it on a Tuesday morning but still behave yourself. I mean that.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a bunch recently bring alcohol to the park, and they have all these like cans of
Mm,
White Claw in their hand, and I get that, but save it for the reception, because then I saw a neighbor walking by the park and stopped and took a double take, and now my anxiety's going up. I'm like, she's
yeah.
gonna call the police, isn't she? There's a bunch of people drinking in the park, and I'm like, I just want to finish the ceremony and get out of here.
Get the hell out. Well, it's just listen, it's common sense and it's respect. And I do find that, a lot of my people, I actually just worked with I just finished writing a ceremony for people who are at the beach down by you.
Oh, yeah.
They want to do an opening about, their connection with nature and why we're there. So, a lot of the people that choose to do this, do have that connection. The last thing they would ever think of doing is like throwing a silk rose petal or a cigarette butt, on the shore. But it's just sometimes it just pays to be able to bring that up because everybody's going to suffer if these beautiful places are not allowed to do this anymore. So,
Right, right.
yeah.
They are. And the term Karen, I don't want to be a Karen. I don't want to be like, you can't do that. You can't do this. I just don't want to be in that situation.
Well, the thing is, a lot of these people are here, people come for like once, they're there and they're gone. But these are places that, we probably did in the park where we do most of our elopements. We probably did a hundred weddings there last year.
Mhm.
And, we want to be respectful, not only of the rules, but, the other people who go there.
Right,
It's
right.
because this is their home. This is, this is where, my partner Michael walks our dog. We don't want them pissed at us. I mean, that would be stupid.
Right, right. And most people, when we're doing a wedding out there, most of the neighbors that live there and stuff, they pause and they smile and
And they
they
clap and
love
it's
it.
like fun for
Love
them.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens on the beach. All of a sudden, it'll be the end, and they'll kiss, and all of a sudden, you hear a bunch of clapping from the side, and it's people
Yeah.
have stopped to watch it. So they really are rooting for you guys, and we just want to
Yeah.
keep it a very happy event and not have any problems.
Yeah.
These are not rules that I've made, although I do agree with some of them. Yeah, I like a
Mhm.
nice, glass of wine when I get home or whatever. I'm not going to
Yeah.
break any laws or hurt
Yeah.
anybody's livelihood that way. On a positive note, I did want to say that we we had a really great interview a while back. If listeners, if you haven't heard it, check out the episode with the Mill, Lakeside Manor, Clark's Landing, and Bradford Estates. We had the pleasure to speak with Jacqueline Truesdale. She is the general
They were so
manager, and
fun.
her
Yeah.
family is the owner. Her brother, and her father
Mm.
are the owners, and they run these venues, and they are fabulous venues, and they are always like a lot of venues, a lot of the good venues. They are always enhancing things. There's always something new. There's always
They're
something
always updating stuff. It's always
always
so fun.
updating. Nothing's getting run down in any way. And but this, I just got an email from them. That's what's new at the venue. They have some really cool cocktail hour upgrades at the Mill
Oh, cool.
Lakeside Manor. It says they can add some extra wow factor for our couples and their guests. Their latest addition is a cactus shaped display to hold mini margaritas that complement their taco cantina station. It looks really cute, these little mini
That sounds
margaritas
really
by
fun.
their station. The other enhancements that are really fun, but you don't notice them so much on the outside, but they are necessary, are the bathroom baskets. And they have a ladies and a
Mm,
gentleman one, and they're really nice and pretty. And they have like all the little travel size things that you can think up that are very helpful for any of your guests being there. And they also have their seasonal cocktail right now is the
mm.
Bloody Mary Dirty Martini. So
Ooh, that sounds dangerous.
I know. So they say their mixologists love providing each wedding guest with a memorable cocktail experience. So I reach out to the wedding coordinator about adding a signature cocktail to your wedding, and we should do a Celia. We've talked about this, doing an episode about signature cocktails, and I
Oh,
like it
yeah.
when they name them after their pets, like the
They're
dog,
dogs, right?
or the cat,
I know.
or the
I have
rabbit.
trying to
Mm.
think who I have the Mr. Brownie tonight. That's the name of the dog is it's not
Dog,
just Brownie, it's Mr.
Mr.
Brownie is the dog.
Oh, he's got a
So
special cocktail
yes,
named
we have
after him. I love
I'm
that.
thinking it's an espresso martini. I'm not really sure, but I'll see if when I get
Check it
there. But
out. See,
I know, gotta check. No, but I think it's fun that like some of our, our really upscale venues that we work in really try to keep current with like trends and seasonal things. And the one that I always remember, because Rock Island does a lot of stations, the Rock Island Lake Club does a lot of stations at their cocktail hour. And I went in, it was during like I think it was probably during towards the end of football season when we're doing like the playoffs and stuff and we're like gearing up for this. Nobody in their right mind would have a wedding on Super Bowl weekend. That would be really stupid. I'm sure it'd be really cheap, but it would be stupid too. But they had a station and they had like football, like sliders
oh yeah.
and chicken wings, but the the piece de resistance, as far as I'm concerned, is they had a chocolate fountain, except it was full of Frank's hot sauce.
Oh,
Like, is that the most insane, cool thing,
that
like,
is
ever?
great thinking.
It
That
was
is great.
it was
Yeah.
absolutely great, and they had, like, little mugs of beer and stuff. Their presentation is always, like, just completely over the top,
I love
creative,
it.
and inventive. It was, like, very fun, but I have been talking about that Frank's hot sauce fountain for, like, probably it was probably, like, before COVID. That's how long I've been talking about it, 'cause
That's
it really, like, struck me,
Yeah. Oh, I love something like that, something inventive like that. So before we talk about this, our interview we
And
did
speaking of
earlier today,
inventive
I did want to, I have a plug. I have a plug.
Oh, okay.
In case anybody's listening, my daughter Elle lives in Charleston, South Carolina, and she
Mm.
has a bunny rescue, which started from
Aw.
people letting out pets and thinking, I'm done having this pet, this domestic rabbit, and releasing them, thinking they could live in the wild, but they can't. So she has a little bunny rescue going on, and check out her Instagram site. It
I will.
is House Buns of Charleston. It's House Buns, Buns. They call bunnies buns of Charleston.
Oh my
And
god, that's too funny.
especially if you want to adopt one.
I
So
I
that
think
was my
mhm.
plug.
I think
Um,
my dog would eat it. I would love to adopt one, but I think that she would really think of it more as like an entree than another like
my
another pet.
dog too, but you know that they are my daughters are housebroken just like cats. They use a litter.
That's so
And
cool.
um, two of them in particular very much love to be petted and in your
Aw,
lap and always on
aw,
you. The others might not be as much, but that's probably just because of their they were out in the
aw,
wild too long, or they might be scared they got to warm up. She gets them fixed, so
oh, that's
they're fixed.
great.
Otherwise, you couldn't have them together like boys and girls together.
I know, we know what
Experience.
happens with that, don't we now? Oh my gosh.
Any enough about the buns. We had the pleasure of speaking with, when I recommend someone to my couples, I have a pros I know list I give them
Yeah,
when I give them the information on how to
uh-huh,
apply for their marriage license. I don't do that, what's the word? Lightly. I'll say
yeah,
lightly. Because I always recommend somebody I really, really like.
yeah, it
And
reflects on us. Of course it does. Yeah.
Giovanni just made my list. We had listeners
Was he
who
so fun? Like, speaking of buns, see what I did there? He was great. He was, he brought up some things that I
The
never would
hairstylist, by the way.
even think about,
Yeah.
like I loved he talked about how, the wedding pictures really are, it's like an ancestral kind of archival experience.
Mhm.
It's like, what did Aunt Mary look like? What did the bride look like 20 years ago? I just thought that was really kind of captivating, to tell you the truth.
Right. And not only is he very talented, he does celebrity hair as
He does
well.
beautiful work.
Right. And he's on many magazines. When you go to
Yeah.
his website, you can see all those brides magazine. Does beautiful work. He loves it. He's very honored to be part of
I
somebody's
know.
special
I
day. That
loved
really
him.
touches him. And also, he knows the big picture. You'll hear, guys, how
Yes.
he talks about the big picture of the whole day, of
Being
where
on time.
the
I love him.
consultation, yeah, timeliness, but where you having your ceremony, like he'll talk you through it. It's a
Yeah.
great consultation, I
I thought he
think.
was great. I thought he was, you know what, as I said before we talked to him, it's like if I had to consider like what my hair was going to look like and maybe three or four other people, I would just like, I'd be in the corner crying. And that just does not seem to phase him at all. I was really surprised at how holistic he looked at the whole kind of day.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was great. He was
He was
really great.
great. I can't wait to have him on again, maybe at the
Yeah.
end of the season. Like we said, I'm thinking I love your idea, Celia. We'll have a vendors roundtable, and I'd like
Yeah.
to
Wouldn't that be
invite him to
fun?
do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the listeners would really like, that was a
Yeah,
great
we,
idea,
we
Celia.
talk about teams so often, about the
Uh-huh.
importance of assembling a team. And, I don't know about you, but when I look at a worksheet that I get from a couple and it's got five people, five other vendors that I've never heard of, and they probably haven't ever heard of each other, it's like, whoa, this is going to be a slog. It's not like, oh, I know that, Gary has worked with his makeup artist and his hair people, and he works with a videographer. It's like we all work together so often. And I think that would be really fun you know, to talk about how important that is, because I feel like it's just sort of like an invisible thing that makes the whole day better when
Yeah.
people are really cooperative. When we have a bunch of people that we don't know, or they don't know each other, it's kind of nerve-wracking,
Mhm.
because we don't know if everybody's going to cooperate. And once you're in the thick of things, it's a little hard to correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Um, So, and I look forward to it. I hope I get to see Giovanni, but a lot of times the makeup artists, unless they stay for touch-ups, we don't get to see them. But
Yeah.
uh, so everybody enjoy this interview. It was great with
Yeah, he's gonna be a lot of fun
Giovanni.
to listen to.
Yeah, Giovanni Giuntoli. So
Yeah,
his
totally.
website is giovannigiuntoli.com. And Giovanni is spelled traditional. The last name is Giuntoli.com. You'll
Well, I
see,
think, and he has a salon in Hoboken.
yeah, it's
He has, like, yeah,
called, what is it called? It's, I think it's Salon at Hoboken.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have him on all the places where you can find people from this podcast. But it's like, I don't know. I was just glad that we weren't on video, frankly, to tell you the truth.
It's early morning. All right, guys, enjoy.
Have fun. Bye.
Want to get married without the stress of a big wedding? Looking for a ceremony that's all about the two of you? Or maybe you just can't wait to say I do. New Jersey Elope can make your dream of an intimate and unforgettable wedding day a reality. Picture this: exchanging vows with the sand between your toes on a beautiful beach, saying I do surrounded by nature in a serene park, or celebrating your love under the elegant arch in my cozy office. So, whether you crave the coastal breeze, the charm of the outdoors, or a private, hassle free setting, we have the perfect elopement ceremony for you. Visit NewJerseyElope.com and start planning your dream wedding today. New Jersey Elope, where your love story begins.
Good morning, everybody. We are very excited. We have our first hairstylist on today. This is going to be so fun because, we all have hair, although it's very good that we're not doing video because at this moment that would be in question. At least for me. I don't want to speak for Andrea, but for me, nobody wants to see this. But bridal hair is a completely, totally different kind of production to orchestrate, especially if you have 3 or 4 or 10 bridesmaids and they're all, that's happening for them too. So hopefully Giovanni can unscramble this all for us so you have a better idea of when to book and how the process goes, when to book your trial, which is important. And I'm just going to let him talk. Good morning, Giovanni. How are you?
Great. How are you? Good morning. I'm doing great. I am super excited about this podcast and being able to, get the message out and help brides and those going to special events and going to special days.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Yeah, happy to help give a little advice or a little insight with my history and experience.
Right.
So I'm really great that you have this podcast to help people.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And because your website is beautiful, your
Oh, it's gorgeous.
portfolio is beautiful, your bridal
Thank you.
hair is gorgeous. It's just elegant. And bridal hair is so important for the big day. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
huge part of it. The dress, the hair, and the makeup is one of the first things you notice is the hair. So tell us about all about this, what you offer, and how
Yeah.
you help the brides.
Well, I fell in love with bridal hair and updos once I got over the fear of it. And I think that's common with hairstylists. And once getting over the fear of it, just really seeing, like, wow, I am being part of someone's next chapter in their life. I'm being invited to be a part of history, and doing editorial work and being involved in fashion and photo shoots in our industry, that's really where we can see where we've come from, what we've created, our archive of work. So layering that in with someone's big special event or someone's wedding, those photos are things that we look at, 50 years down the road, when our next generations are going, what did mom look like? What did grandma look like? Here's their wedding photos. It's the few times in our life that I feel like we really put a lot of attention into that special day, getting those photos and then mounting those photos so everybody can celebrate it and see. It tells a story about our history. So being able to do hair for that has been really a great journey to be able to meet so many people, start in their new chapter, create a beautiful hairstyle that complements the person wearing it. I think that's been really important along my journey, is not just doing hair for somebody that says, I like this updo, but they're breaking down what they see in the hairstyle that they're requesting, and then tailoring it to what that person looks like, bringing out their strong features, complementary shapes, also understanding lighting in the venue, if they're going to be indoors or outdoors, what shadows create, like I learned makeup from a great friend of mine, Darcy McGrath, and I was so glad I did because I have an understanding of tying in hair with makeup now,
Right.
and being able to make sure to have something that is cohesive and complementary and gorgeous on whoever is wearing it, you know, because we don't want to put a shadow from a bang over someone's eyebrows that are now getting their eyebrows arched in and drawn in, or beautiful eye makeup. So, you know, it's a hand in hand kind of symbiotic relationship uh,
Mhm.
to understand and have that great conversation with the bride, so they can, when they look at their photos and themselves that day, they just fall in love with themselves and the look, and they feel great, and they're ready to just take the aisle.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
And your expertise can help a bride that, because I think of this, I would be this kind of bride, not knowing what hairstyle looks best on me. You know, it's the old joke, Giovanni, where the woman brings in, she might have like a thin straight hair. That's what I have, very fine straight hair. And they bring in the picture of some celebrity that has completely different type of hair and facial structure, and says, I want this cut. And
Yeah.
you're like, well, let's talk about how we're gonna make that work for you, right? You know?
Yeah, let's talk about the journey. If this is your end result and you'd like something like this, how long could we, you know, how long will it take for us to achieve it? What's the path? You know, I think consultations are very important. Just to that note. You know, I know you mentioned before about setting up trials, you
Yeah.
know, with your hairstylist, and I mean, whether it's your hairstylist that you get every day that's cutting your hair, maybe you're going on location, but it's still any time you can start that conversation, it allows you to have more time to go along the journey of figuring out what you're doing with your hair. You know, there's been multiple times when brides change their mind. You know, the venue changes, or maybe they have an opportunity to do something outside, and you know,
Mhm.
going from outside to inside is a whole nother factor to consider and to be prepared for and to prep the hair for. So I find for myself, telling my brides, let's have the consultation. You can blue sky whatever you'd like, but let's just have enough time to plan for it, so it gives me the best opportunity to deliver these desired end results.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I see the different styles. I live right by the beach. I'm just a mile
Okay,
from the beach.
yeah,
So I do a lot of beach weddings. And then they're going back to a venue. And I do venue ones too,
yes,
but definitely you see the different styles, you know, to go with the dress that, you know, that they pick out the dress that's going to look great on the beach. And then the beachy hairstyle, versus you're going into the big, elegant, you know, venue. So
uh-huh.
two completely different styles there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to have kind of environmental education, with even understanding that there is different parts of the country, different parts of the world that could influence your hairstyle, you know, from humidity in the south of
Yeah.
Florida to Las Vegas, where it's dry and arid. You know, hair reacts differently. And I feel
Mhm.
these days, a lot of brides are doing location. You know, maybe not that far, but they are doing things that are bringing them to different parts of
Yeah.
the world, and bringing in different kinds of elements that affect their hair.
Yeah. Yeah. And now for you, when you style the bride's hair, I mean, maybe when they come in for their consultation, they come to you
Yeah,
for that, but you go on location, correct? To
absolutely.
many venues now are allowing they'll have the setup, right, Celia, where the
Yeah.
bride can show up early and their bridesmaids, and they can get their hair done right there at the venue.
Oh, it's so relaxing
Absolutely.
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doing that in the hotel room. You know,
Mhm.
as an editorial and freelance hairstylist, my wife and I own a salon here in Hoboken, which is
Oh,
just
wow.
perfect. But I love traveling, going to hotel rooms, seeing families and friends come to, like, that's a great moment to kind of be behind the scenes, to be able to serve a group of people that they, you know, it's kind of like seeing the generational beauty going on. You know, you have the mothers, the grandmothers, the
Oh, I think that's great.
daughters, you know, the niece. Like, that for me is
It's really
really
special.
impactful. And yeah, it's a lovely moment. And whether it's at the venue or in a hotel room where people are snacking and getting around food and drinking. And like, I love being a part of that, because even though I'm in the service industry, I think there's a love of really having to love being able to serve people and seeing the good in what you're able to be a part of.
Well, I think too that, I mean, I don't know when the kind of tradition of doing the getting ready pictures really started, but
Mhm.
it's such a fun lead up. And, we talk about the ceremony and the cocktail hour and the reception being three different parties, but in a way, it's almost like the getting ready part. Everybody comes in their jeans and their shirts that button down the front, of course, and then they get all fixed up and they're having fun
Yeah,
and they're having a donut, and it's just, and
like a
then
transformation.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
great. I think it's
Right,
real.
the
Yeah.
transformation, yeah.
Yeah. But that notion too that you mentioned that, this is really, it's part of the archive. It's not just beauty. It's part of the archaeology of the day, which is really a neat way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of the few times where we all, maybe as family and friends kind of get together.
Mm.
Weddings and funerals
Yeah.
seem to always bring
Yes.
people together. And so at least being on the good side of the half, you know, um,
Yeah.
I think that's always much nicer to be a part of that. The energy is so much lighter.
Oh,
You know,
definitely.
and to your point, being part of that journey, what's great about having the salon in Hoboken is being able to help new brides that are maybe new to finding myself and doing bridal hair, being able to say, yes, we can get your hair in shape, we can get the chlorine out of your hair, we can
Mm.
add dimension and texture through highlights and color. Because a lot of individuals see photos, but they don't understand why they love that photo. Until we start having
Yes.
that consultation and saying, what do you love about it? Well, I love the neck. I don't like the ears being shown. I love the texture. Great. Well, this can all play into somebody that may have one color hair or a certain length of hair or something. So how do we add the dimension and the movement into your hair? Now we can have an even deeper conversation, because now I'm not playing as somebody who's just coming in to style your hair, but now I come in with a team to be able to say, listen, there are a couple color specialists and they do extensions. So there's options there. And then there's the styling options. So there's a whole, when you get one person, you get a team behind them, which is
Oh,
really great to have that support.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
it's it's funny, I'm just realizing now that it's more than just being good at your craft, being able to do a beautiful hairstyle. There's listening skills and guidance and
Yeah.
putting the team together. The
Yes.
consultation is very important, and having
It's
a
crucial.
hairstylist that gives a good consultation and is a good listener and can create it. There's so much more to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's I 100% agree with you. It really comes down to a great consultation, because that way that you're both on the same page. Um, I've also, in my experience, have earned the right to say no. You know,
Uh,
I love that style, but when you tell me that you're going to be you dance, you sweat, you're
Yeah.
nervous, all those point to me as more of like, let's put your hair up, because in photos you don't want sticky hair, you don't want something that's stuck on your face or being tossed all around because you're dancing. I want you to be free to do what you want and look great, so a photographer can come in, capture these great moments, because I feel like even our photos have changed from the setup photo
Yes.
to the capture the moment, capture me
Mhm.
kissing my niece, capture me hugging my ring bearer, grabbing my grandma, all these moments where, boy, if that hair is in the wrong place at the wrong time, that photo is just another photo.
yeah.
We want it to
Yeah.
be a photo that you save, that you archive, that you send to people. And that's where I come in, and that's where the consultation comes in, to be able to go, these are your visions, this is what you want to do, let me let me tailor this to you, and let's talk about other things that may be better options for
Yeah.
you. And again, that consultation really tells a lot about each person. You know, do you connect with that person? Is that person gonna almost like take a bullet for you? You know, I can't tell you how many weddings I've been on where the bride has, maybe the strap is broken or a button is loose or something, and I go, I have a sewing kit here, and I have tape, I have a pin, I have safety pins, I have, you know, this isn't
Well
just
prepared.
hair.
Yeah.
This isn't just hair. This is a servant
Right.
here to serve you and save the day. Whenever I can swoop in and save the day,
Yeah. What a
let
good
me help
point.
you. Yeah, let me help you with the lighting. Let me help the photographer. You know, I'm there to get great photos of you and have you have a win for the day. So to your point, going back to a consultation, 100%, you know, no matter what it's worth, it's definitely worth it to give you peace of mind throughout the day.
Yeah, I like what you said there. You know, your experience, your years of experience has earned you the right to be able to say no, and I get that, or guide them in a different direction, because you just can't always be the yes person. And I think Celia
Yeah.
and we've both, I've been doing this 14 years, officiating, and Celia longer, and we both have those times where we've learned from experience, where you might say to the couple, I know you want to include this in your ceremony in this way, but we're on the beach and
Right.
you have the big ball gown on, you're not going to be able to walk around, and whatever it might
Yeah.
be, let's talk about doing it a different way, because I think you're going to be happier that way. You know, that type of stuff that we've
Yeah.
learned, this just learned through the years, and we know through, because it's a big picture that you're looking at, the whole big picture, not just leaving this salon looking beautiful. It's the whole night we're talking about, you know? So
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
like that. That's what experience and professionalism bring to the table, as well as being good at your craft, you know?
And
Um,
I also think that it's a value where I think when brides are looking at the investment of photography, the
yeah,
hair
Right.
and the makeup
Right.
team, you know, there's a value. And I really strongly feel now that not everybody's just looking for a yes man. I want
right,
this.
Yeah.
Okay. I want that. Okay. Because they're looking for an expert.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
we're paying for an expert. I want your opinion because you'll definitely be feeling it if it doesn't work.
yeah,
And so let's nip it in the bud and give you solutions versus just highlight the problem. You
right.
know, like you
And
said, you know, these are all great ideas, but let's focus on the ones that can work. And that'll be, you know, that you'll be so pleased with the day versus just, no, 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 we can't do that.
right. And you when you mention, and they've made such an investment in photography and videography, that is another thing that they have made investments in their photographs, their
Yes.
photography. This is what they're going to look back on and remember forever.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
photos have become so much more important nowadays with social
Yeah.
media. I mean, people are also getting, you know, they want content for their
Yeah.
Instagram, and they want to post it. I see more and more brides getting their hair done for their bridal shower, or for their,
Mhm.
because they're going to be posting these pictures. They want to look their best because so
Yeah.
many more people are seeing it, and they want to show it. That's a way of documenting your life almost. I was almost said showing off, but no, it's how like the younger generation really documents their life. And
Mhm.
so they're going to get their hairstyle for
Yeah.
the bridal shower, or for their rehearsal dinner, or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
as
And I
well
think
as
that's where it's really important to find a hairstylist that understands photos, that knows timing and speed, you know, from doing work with Fashion Week and celebrities to doing editorial work, shape, shadows, you know, the same on the same par with a photographer that understands movement and shapes and dimension. You know, we speak the same language, we just apply it in kind of a different way, you know, but to the same medium, which is, imagery and photos. And to your point, social media is, I think, super important these days for people to go, I'm putting it out on Facebook for the family that couldn't make it. I'm putting it on Instagram for all those that couldn't be here, but also I have, again, a new chapter in my life now this is marking a new chapter in my life. This is the look that I'm bringing it in, and starting it. And, we're charging forward and looking their best, and to anyone who's listening and wondering, when you book your photographer, that I feel is the moment to start booking hair and makeup as well. Not looking at it as separate entities, but looking at building the team, because the three, hair, makeup, and photography, should be looking at a cohesive look that's complementary, that works for the bride or whoever for the special event, and not put things like, say, the flowers first. Because on social media, I see a lot of brides now scrambling and going, my wedding's in 2 months, and now I'm looking for somebody, and I don't have a hair and makeup artist.
Always get nervous for those people. I see the posts on
me too.
Facebook, right? So can anybody recommend? And it's like, I start getting nervous for them.
I know. I wish I could do it.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
you made a really good point, though, because I think that, you really should think about your photographer and your hair, and, because the photographer's day really depends, the tempo of their day really depends on the hair and makeup being on time and done well, and, expertly and ready to go. And I always tell my people, it's like, if you ask your photographer who they recommend, because they're the people who are really in the trenches. And it's really sensible when you think about it. It's not like the last minute thing to put together, for sure.
No. And I with makeup, somebody can have beautiful skin and they can put a little lip gloss on or maybe a little liner and go, boom, gorgeous right there. But with hair, we tend to get a little bit more like, I know it's easy, but I need it a little curled, I need it a little smoother, so there's a little bit more work. And I feel that is where the difference comes in with, like, I'm doing my own hair and makeup versus someone else coming in and saying, let me take this over for you. You enjoy the time with your family and friends. Let me worry about all the other little details and making you gorgeous.
I totally agree. I believe in having the professional do your hair and makeup. Just say, enjoy the day.
It elevates the day. It elevates the moment. It elevates the special event that it is. And that's what the hairstylist is there for. I'm there to coordinate and conduct all the moving parts, with timing, and this is discussed even during the consultation. Okay, we have 7 bridesmaids. The bride, you're going to go number 3. We're going to set your hair. You're going to go over to makeup. You're going to get your skin done. We're going to do legs, knees, elbows, everything. And we're going to do beautiful skin, let that set. And then we're going to come back at the end, drop the hair, put it up. Meanwhile, all the bridesmaids are talking and doing great things and visiting, taking selfies. But, there's a whole timing to all of those moving parts. Knowing it's also, like, when is the photographer coming in? Great. You shouldn't be half up, half down, and half an eye while the photographer is in getting photos. We need to orchestrate that. Maybe these behind the scenes photos, like, you always look great in your behind the scenes photos.
Yeah, they're more orchestrated.
Like, that's really important. And finding somebody who knows this and understands, again, keep snowballing to the other elements to make your day, again, flawless.
Right.
And I think, people don't understand really. I mean, well, maybe they do now, but doing your own makeup is not like doing makeup that needs to look great in photos, which are way more highly technical now than they were when I got married a million years ago. But you need to look great on film. You want to look great on person, and it's got to last
Yeah.
like forever. My hair and makeup people on Sunday, my wedding was at 11:30. They showed up at 3 o'clock in the morning to start these women, and there weren't a
Mhm.
whole lot of them. There were like, I think, 5 bridesmaids and a bride. And I think that's, speaking again of the consultations, I think those are things that really your average person has no idea about this. It's like me trying
Yep.
to buy a new roof. It's like, what do I know from roofs?
It's
Like,
a
what do
good
I
Right.
know from, it's, you need an
Right.
expert and you need to listen to them. I think
Yeah.
that's really kind
Yeah.
of like the key takeaway right there.
And I feel the other really smart investment for brides to really consider is I stay on. I offer the service of like, okay, now your hair is done, but let's stay on. There's a lot going on throughout the day.
Hmm.
There's nerves, there's accidents. I mean, I can't tell you how many veils have been pulled out because of an excited grandma or
Oh
father
yeah.
that hugs the bride. It gets caught, it
Yeah.
pulls out like,
It's
hey, it's just a flat tire. We're going to fix this. We're going to keep going.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't there, then it's a flat tire that derails a lot of the day. And never let them see you sweat is my thing with the brides. Like, don't worry, we got you. Nobody's ever going to know what happened. And so the investment of having someone stay on almost as long as the
yeah.
photographer even stays on is a great investment. Otherwise, it's like, what are you going to do with these photos? Go and
Right.
dance, go get sweaty, go get your hair tousled. But you know what? When I know photos are coming, I'm going to go there, slip a pin in the
Yeah.
hair, and make you look like sitting pretty in air conditioning and ready for your photos. So that's a great little investment to say, keep the hairstylist and makeup artist on for a couple more hours.
Yeah.
At least after the ceremony, maybe when the reception starts, then maybe release them, but let them stay on for a few hours. And that way they're there for any surprise thing that
Oh, absolutely.
happens. They're here
Absolutely.
to put that fire out even before it starts.
I
In
totally
the summer
agree.
too. I'm sorry, go ahead, Andre.
No, I was just, all I was going to say was I totally agree.
I mean, in the summer when we are very much in agreement that we love the first looks because you look the best. It makes the couple more relaxed for the whole day. But there is the other side of that, like, doing a first look that you start 2 hours ahead of the ceremony and you are outside, you are being dragged all over the planet. And yeah, you're gonna need to be touched up probably before the
Yes.
ceremony, right?
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, think of even just what your skin does when you're nervous or when you're excited. That transfers to hair. So I agree. And on the
All it
other
does is
side,
take, Aunt Betty to give you a kiss with her bright red lipstick on.
That's
yes.
all it takes. That
Yes.
everything's gone. I know.
Yeah, and you can't be
No.
upset. You can't go, oh man, Aunt Betty, you showed
Why does she
affection.
kiss? Why does she have
No,
to kiss me?
yeah,
Ew.
exactly. It's like, go ahead and kiss. We'll cover, don't worry, we'll get rid of that.
Cover
We'll
it.
get
We'll
rid of that
airbrush
hair
that
that
right
got
out.
caught in your bracelet, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the grooms.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, hey, let's not forget guys go from wearing t-shirts and maybe some polos every day of their life, and now we're going to throw them in a tux and expect them to know what to do, how to look, what to do with their hair. So, if there's a chance and you kind of foresee it, if you foresee it, it's going to happen. If you go, Joe, John, and Jeremy are going to look like tousled surfers. This
Mhm.
is a black tie event, and I want them to look like 007. So
Yeah.
again,
I
maybe
like it.
padding in a little bit of time there so we can throw a little wax, maybe shave their neck, trim them up,
Yes.
just to make sure, like, hey, I want you to be right up there
Yeah.
with your beautiful wife that's standing at the aisle with you, and not to look like you're out of your league. I want
Right.
your leagues to match. I don't want it to look like you're
Yeah,
traveling
it's
outside
true.
your league there.
Yeah,
true.
I like that. Don't forget about the grooms, and I love it when the mothers too, because they're such a big
Yeah.
part of the photos and stuff, the mother and the bride,
So true.
the
And you know what?
Yeah.
It's one
they
day.
want to feel pretty
Ideally,
too.
it's one day. And for most people, I mean, most people who are not like, we're not like celebrities. And, it's a day that ideally will live with you forever. And most people don't have the license to really spend the time or money on their own looks in everyday life. And if you're going to do that, I'll tell you, I did a wedding at the Empire State Building years ago. And when I walked into, I was the officiant, it was a promotional thing. They had an entire huge makeup and hair room for all the brides that were getting married that day. And it's like, they took one look at me and they're like, get her in here. It's like, I thought I looked kind of cute when I left the house this morning, let me tell you. But by the time they got done with me, like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I am never taking this off. It's because somebody knew what to do. It's like, get rid of that eyeliner. We're going in, bring in the crew. But it makes such a difference. I know, like when we see, if we even meet our couples beforehand, which, everybody's doing Zoom now. I haven't met a person in person for years, but it's
Yeah.
like when you get there and they're like, whoa, and I
Yeah.
always feel bad. It's like, God, you look great. Cause it kind of insinuates that like, well, when I met you on Zoom in the sweatpants, that like, you look like crap, but now you look gorgeous. But, I think it's just such a great way for couples to approach their day, knowing that they look absolutely fantastic. And I mean, there's no better feeling than that, except that, well, I'm going to marry somebody I really love. I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something to that saying where look good, feel good.
Absolutely.
You look good. I mean, even for this, let's go back to the groom. Even the fact of like when you look at a guy who's wearing a t-shirt and polo, and then you throw him in a tux, oh man, his shoulders square off, he's standing up straight, he's opening doors. There's a whole persona change. And I feel like that's also with brides, that
Yeah.
it's such a special day. It's like a whole shift of a mindset. That mindset changes your whole body and posture,
Yep.
and we want our brides when we're done to grace that aisle with
Mhm.
power and confidence, knowing what they're getting into. And I think that is just such a magical moment,
Mhm.
because where photographers capture that moment in that eye, I think that element with hair and makeup is the ability to really connect and physically touch and connect with that person, which is a whole nother thing. I think we're so used to our space and we want our space and we need our space that now you're allowing me to come into your space, literally get into your space, touching hair, being part of the moment, being a calming effect, that's such an important thing, and I'm so
Yeah.
glad with consultations that sometimes we do Zooms, with somebody that might be coming into town for getting their makeup and hair done for like the events or their wedding, and they're not traveled in yet. Or we try, like, if you're going to come in for the event, that's when we should tie it all together. Come in, not for the event, but to come and see your venue. Come and see your venue. Let's do your hair trial, or let's have an in-person consultation so we can see it really, like your hair density, the texture, everything, that we may miss on a Zoom. And you mentioned before, like those little details, you know, you got to find that hairstylist that finds those little details and let them sweat those details, because
Right.
it may not be a big detail to our eye, normal looking at someone, but in a photo, that's a
Oh my gosh.
distraction.
Right.
It's a
Right.
You're so right.
distraction,
You're so
and
right.
Exactly. And you've
it's an
invested in those
element.
photos. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to get a photo perfect without retouching.
Right.
Making sure that hair isn't covering the eye, isn't covering the skin. That's a lot of retouching, and that's something that can
Mhm.
be avoided by sweating the details, being on site, making sure if a photographer's like, we're going to walk over here to get some shots in the sunlight under the tree over here. Okay, great. I'm going to come with you. I'm going to meet you there. She's going to be ready by the moment you get there and you start shooting. I'm going to
Yeah.
get all those little details in. And those are important things, because like you said, yes, I see them in the photos and I need to get rid of them, or they are a distraction. And we don't want anything to distract away from the beauty of the beauty of the bride.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
true. You know what?
I think you really need to leave it to the pros. That's how I'm
Yeah.
going to end this one. Leave it to the pros. And I want to tell our listeners that Giovanni Giuntoli's website
Yes.
is going to be on our social media sites, his website link and a link to his Instagram. So you can go directly there and check out his portfolio. He has done a lot of brides magazines, a lot of celebrity styles, great portfolio, and you can get in touch with him right from there. And Giovanni, we thank you so much for joining us today.
It was a lot of
And
fun.
we'd really like
Thank
to have you
you.
on again, maybe the end of the season, talk about
I
trends and
would
things
love
like
it.
that.
That would be amazing. I would love to do that and share some tips and tricks with some of the questions that are being put out there from brides and those going to special events. And I'm so glad to be part of this and, supporting those in search and in need of services. So thank you both for
Thank you.
allowing me to share time with you.
All right. Have a
Very
great
fun.
day. And thank you
You
so much.
too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Did it.
This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey wedding officiant Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services.
And Celia Milton, owner of NJ Vows Now, also New Jersey wedding officiating services. We're up in North Jersey and Andrea is down in Central and South Jersey. So together we cover the whole state, don't we?
Yes, yes.